I'm no psychologist. I never sat in a lecture hall or waved some framed certificate on my wall. My education came from the streets, from a life I don't romanticize anymore. Back then, I dealt with women most men couldn't decipher. The fiery ones, the avoidant ones, the ones who'd rather cut you than let you see them tremble. In that old life, before I walked away from all of it, I learned to read people the way surgeons read X-rays. Not because I wanted to, but because survival demanded it. There were women I had to let go, not because they lacked loyalty, but because they hadn't yet learned how to trust their own softness. They came in armored, sharp-tongued, unpredictable. And still, once that armor cracked, once the walls fell, and the fear dissolved, they became some of the most loyal souls I'd ever met. Loyalty born from understanding, not control, from truth, not force. So what I'm about to give you isn't academic theory. It's psychological insight, carved out of a dark profession I no longer claim, but one that sharpened my eye for human nature. A world where you learned quickly who someone really was, because masks never stayed on for long. And here's my breakdown, my raw, unfiltered understanding of these women and the hidden psychology behind why they act the way they do. There are women who crumble when they like a man, and there are women who grow thorns. The second kind will cut you while keeping their eyes soft. They don't disrespect you because they hate you. They disrespect you because attraction rattles them. A man they actually want becomes a mirror they can't stand to look into. So they scratch the glass. They ghost, they snap, they pull away, they pretend you mean nothing. Because the moment they admit you mean something, the balance of power shifts and they feel naked in the light. Inside, the feelings roar. On the outside, they play cold and careless because in their mind, vulnerability is a currency too expensive to hand over. Every woman carries an internal empire built from childhood patterns, old heartbreaks, and secret fears she thinks she buried. Liking a man threatens that empire. It shakes the walls. So she hits first. She ghosts you, so she doesn't have to feel ghosted. She gets sharp, so she doesn't look soft. She pushes you away because closeness tastes too much like danger. When you're near her, she feels her defenses slipping. When you're gone, she can finally breathe again. And that's when the truth leaks out. That's when she feels you. That's when the longing comes. Distance becomes the only safe place for her to feel anything real. Some women live inside avoidant armor so thick it clanks when they move. They've trained themselves to associate desire with loss, affection with humiliation. They learned somewhere that the one you want is the one who can destroy you. So look closely the next time she's mean to you. Notice the tremor under her cruelty. That's not hatred. That's fear wearing makeup. She isn't disrespecting you. She's fortifying herself. You're the first man in a long time who slipped through a crack in her emotional fortress, and she's panicking, scrambling to seal the opening before you see too much. A woman will only show feelings in your absence when presence overwhelms her. When you're close, she feels the pull. When you're gone, she feels the ache. And for someone who has spent years mastering her own emotional detachment like it's a craft, the ache is unbearable. So she distances, she denies, she fights the very thing she wants. Humans do not resist what bores them. They resist what terrifies them, what awakens something they thought they killed. You didn't trigger disrespect. You triggered memory. You triggered longing. You triggered the version of her that still believes closeness is a battlefield. But here's the thing. Beneath all this chaos sits an instinct as old as seduction itself. Power. She respects you too much. She wants you too deeply, and in her mind, desire is humiliation. So she flips the script. If she insults you first, she never has to feel exposed. If she ghosts you first, she never has to fear abandonment. If she disrespects you, she gets to pretend she isn't the one trembling. Distance is her shield. Meanness is her disguise. Coldness is her last line of defense. So understand the psychology, not the performance. A woman only lashes out at the man she likes when she has not yet mastered her own emotional terrain. When she feels the ground shifting under her feet, she tries to regain balance the only way she knows. It isn't elegance, it isn't kindness, but it is human, wildly human, and, if you're paying attention, painfully transparent. There is a peculiar kind of woman who confuses men because her behavior is a contradiction wrapped in silk. When she doesn't care, she is graceful, charming, almost effortless. But when she does care, she becomes unpredictable. She becomes sharp, almost cruel, as if the fire inside her is spilling out in the wrong direction. To the untrained eye, it looks like disrespect, but what you're witnessing is a woman wrestling with a force she doesn't know how to tame. Desire, for her, feels like standing on a cliff with no guardrails. One wrong move, and she fears she'll fall. So she grips the edge with her nails and cuts whoever stands too close. When she likes a man, she steps into unfamiliar territory. Her usual sense of control evaporates. The scripts she uses to manage the world no longer apply. He sees too much. He stirs too much. And because she cannot dominate her feelings, she tries to dominate the situation. A cold remark here, an unexplained disappearance there, a sudden shift in tone. These are not strategic moves. They're survival reflexes. Her disrespect isn't really aimed at you. It's aimed at the part of herself she can't discipline. People forget that attraction is a form of chaos. It breaks the order of the mind. Men often handle this chaos by chasing. Women, especially those who have tasted heartbreak, handle it by retreating into emotional armor. The armor becomes their identity. They have lived for years believing that softness equals danger. Love equals humiliation. Vulnerability equals foolishness. And so when they feel these old dormant emotions awakening, they panic. They step back. They lash out. They sabotage. Because the first law of their internal kingdom is simple and unforgiving. No one gets close enough to wound me again. You can't understand her behavior without understanding the ghosts behind it. Every woman who disrespects the man she desires is haunted, not by the man in front of her, but by the memory of men behind her. Someone lied to her. Someone abandoned her. Someone praised her only to disappear. Someone taught her that the moment she opened her heart, the game changed. She vowed never to be caught unprepared again. So she created a persona built on distance, wit, sarcasm, and emotional detachment. It protected her. It kept her alive in the battlefield of romance. But it also ensured that any genuine connection she feels now becomes a threat to that armor, and threats are met with hostility. When she ghosts you, she isn't walking away. She's hiding in the last safe place she knows: absence. When she gets mean, she isn't expressing power. She's expressing fear. And when she only feels you once you're gone, it's because distance finally allows her nervous system to unclench. Presence overwhelms her. Absence comforts her. She needs room to feel, because feeling in front of someone scares her more than she would ever admit. She is not disrespecting you as a man. She is wrestling with herself as a woman. There is also an erotic dimension to this. Desire destabilizes her. It bends her rules. It breaks her rhythm. The body responds faster than the mind can explain. And in that split second, where she feels pulled toward you, she loses the illusion of control. Some women cannot tolerate that. They'd rather destroy the moment than surrender to it. This is why she may seem colder the more she wants you. Her heart is accelerating, but her behavior goes in reverse. It's not logic, it's instinct. When a woman is scared of how deeply she could care for a man, she doesn't move toward him. She attacks the feeling itself. But here's the real secret. The moment you stop reacting to her disrespect, a strange transformation happens. She feels exposed, transparent, seen. Her tactics fail. Her armor cracks. The disrespect begins to melt because it no longer protects her. You become the calm in her storm, a mirror that doesn't distort her reflection. And that is terrifying, because now she can't use chaos to hide. You force her to confront the truth. Her resistance is not strength. It's fear disguised as attitude. And when you don't crumble beneath it, she realizes the facade is powerless. Most men misunderstand her. They take it personally when her behavior flips. But a man who understands the psychological architecture behind it never reacts emotionally. He observes. He stays steady. He knows she is not testing him. She is tremoring. She is battling the parts of herself she does not trust. You can almost hear the gears grinding inside her mind, the old rules trying to suppress the new desire. She is torn between the woman she became and the woman she secretly wishes she could be. Stay long enough, stand steady enough, and you'll see her soften in ways she never intended. Her disrespect fades, her cold edges warm, her ghosts quiet, because the truth is simple, and it has always been simple. She wasn't fighting you. She was fighting her own history. And some histories do not surrender without a brutal internal war. There is a moment in every connection where the emotional tide shifts. You'll see it in her eyes if you're paying attention. A flicker, a hesitation, that split second where her desire betrays her composure. And right there, in that tiny window, she realizes something dangerous. You have the power to disappoint her. That single realization is enough to make some women retreat into the oldest, coldest parts of themselves. Because disappointment is not just pain for them, it is humiliation. And humiliation is a scar they have sworn never to wear again. So they preempt the wound. They cut before they can be cut. They withdraw, disrespect, ghost, or grow strangely hostile. People call it self-sabotage. But sabotage implies weakness. What you're seeing is a highly rehearsed survival tactic. She learned a long time ago that emotional surrender is a gamble with terrible odds, so she keeps the chips close to her chest and pretends the game bores her. This is how she stays in control, or at least how she convinces herself she is. Look closely and you'll notice something peculiar. The softer you are, the harsher she becomes. Not because she hates softness, but because softness is her kryptonite. It threatens to undo all the psychological defenses she spent years installing. Softness invites intimacy. Intimacy invites truth. And truth calls forward every wound she buried, every memory she starved, every fear she wrapped in armor and silence. So she reacts like anyone cornered by their own vulnerability. She scratches, she denies, she lashes out. Often, her aggression is a smokescreen for exposure. She senses her own desire and panics. It's similar to how a wild animal behaves when it realizes it wants to be touched. It snarls and retreats, not because the touch is dangerous, but because the wanting is. Desire bends the will. It makes people irrational, impulsive, even obedient. And this woman has spent too much of her life fighting to be unbendable. So when you trigger that old instinct in her, she feels her autonomy slipping, her freedom trembling. To her, that is the real threat, not you. And here's where it gets interesting. The more you confront her disrespect with sensitivity or emotional explanations, the more she disrespects you. Not because she's cruel, because you're stepping into the role she fears, the man who tries to breach her walls. She feels cornered, and cornered people act irrational. But when you respond with composure, silence, and unbothered strength, something inside her resets. Her guard drops. Her aggression loses its purpose because now she sees you're not trying to invade. You're not begging, chasing, or cracking under pressure. You're simply there, rooted in your own frame, and that unnerves her in the best possible way. Women like her soften for men they cannot destabilize, and they harden for men who crumble under tension. This is one of those paradoxes people rarely admit. Her disrespect is not a test, but the collapse of her emotional equilibrium. And when you don't collapse with her, you become the fixed point she didn't know she needed. Not a savior, not a rescuer, a mirror, a stable, unshaken presence that reflects her chaos without absorbing it. Now let's talk about absence, the fuel of this entire dynamic. Some women only feel their emotions fully when the man is gone, because distance quiets the fear. It gives them space to feel without being witnessed. People forget how terrifying it is for someone to be seen in their longing, to desire openly, to want someone without guarantees. When you're around, she's too busy defending herself from the intensity. But when you're gone, the fortress relaxes. The inner child, the one who wanted closeness, wakes up, and suddenly she feels everything she suppressed in front of you. The longing, the tenderness, the ache, the curiosity, the what-ifs. And make no mistake, she will think about you. She will replay conversations. She will anticipate your messages. She will feel that quiet internal stir that only absence can summon. Because distance, unlike presence, doesn't threaten her. Distance lets her want you safely. It gives her the illusion of control. And some people need that illusion more than they need love itself. But here's the razor edge of it all. Once she realizes you're not chasing, not bending, not performing for her approval, her psyche is forced into a reckoning. She must confront the truth she's been avoiding. That her disrespect was never power. It was panic, and panic always dissolves in front of a man who refuses to dance with it.